You are listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Happy New Year's Day, folks. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to the Intrepid radio program right here on Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Go over, check out Odyssey Radio Network, see all the goodness they have. Look at the schedule and the lineup. Pretty amazing place to sit and just turn on your computer or your radio and listen to their lineup all day long. Also, you can catch this show in my YouTube channel for the live simulcast. I was going to say synchronize the simulcast of this show in video over at youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And over there, you're going to also run into the Intrepid family. And a lot of folks over there, it's not just fans of the show, it's a real family that has grown up over there and people I've become pretty close to. And so come on over, join the chat room, get to know some of the people over there. And if you're not doing anything tonight, New Year's Eve, come on over. It's only 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's 10 o'clock East Coast time, 7 o'clock West Coast time. So come on over, make it a habit. And every night of the week, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and all the other time zones I already mentioned. Now, New Year's Eve always makes us think about the whole old thing, and it's getting old, the whole resolution thing. Since I was a little kid, I've heard about setting resolutions. And the biggest one, what's the biggest one? I'll bet you can all tell it off the top of your head without even thinking about it. This year I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to buy that new membership with my Christmas money, and then I'm going to go to the gym. And I'm going to get in the best shape of my life, and by spring, I'll be able to show off my six-pack or my new curves taken down back to teenage levels and flaunted on the beach by summer. And, that's the thing everybody wants. They want to do something. I'm going to quit doing this. I'm going to do, there's always a negative attached to it. It's my resolution is to stop doing this negative thing or to fix this negative thing. And so resolutions, I know there's positive ones. I'm going to go, help down at the soup kitchens more. I'm going to give more of my time. I'm going to spend more time with my kids, like we talked about last night, finding the garbage time in between moments of events in life with our kids, with our wives, our husbands, our significant others, and our friends, and so on. And so resolution time, to me, has become an empty, kind of meaningless thing, because it's the time you set the resolution, and generally you'll find within that first couple to 3 weeks of the new year, those things kind of trail off. And it's because we have great intention, but we don't put intention into action. And so I want to talk tonight a little bit about setting intention, rather than setting resolutions, set intentions. And you might ask, well, how do I do that? Maybe there's a fine line in that for some of you. But there's this idea, and it's things I've struggled with because my brain gets a little too analytical about it all. But you have to look at it and say, how do I set an intention? How do I visualize where I want to be? And how do I make that happen? And so let's look into that. But before we do, I want to make mention of, do you remember, God, it's an old movie now. It seems it came out about 25 years ago, Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray, where he wakes up every morning and relives the day over and over and over and over again. And there were subtle mystical messages in that movie if you look for them. And so I want to talk about releasing the past so you don't get stuck in a Groundhog Day mode. Why do we keep repeating old patterns? And how do we change those things? I struggle with that. Everybody struggles with that. And sometimes it's just the brain power we put into it, the manifesting. So it's this setting intention, visualizing, and manifesting it. And it's a daily exercise to make this stuff work. But first, when you watch this futile struggle for control in your life over things, over the past, over stuff that's gone on, you have to look at the struggle and why you had the struggle and why is it there. In the movie Groundhog Day, you see it's a really powerful allegory, and it's a morality tale. Yeah, it's a great comedy. I laughed my butt off through it the first time I saw that in the theater. I was sitting with a friend, and we laughed every 2 minutes. There was a laugh in it, and it was a great movie. But it's an allegory, and it's a morality tale. Watch it from that perspective. Break it out on New Year's Day if you're home. Break it out and watch it. Phil, the Bill Murray character, is every man in modern society. He's the every person in that movie, and he's so focused on increasing his own status and his resources that he misses the present moment and opportunities to build this satisfying relationship that he's seeking. It's like John Lennon said. He said, life is that thing that passes you by while you're waiting for it to happen. And so this, are you like that? Do you set your goals on something, but you're so focused on getting there that you miss life? You miss the opportunities. You miss the world around you. You miss your kids. You miss your relationship. Now, like many of us, Phil, the main character in that movie, is locked in this futile struggle to control and change a life situation that is essentially, for him, unchangeable. And the only solution is to learn to accept our circumstances. Adopt an attitude of gratitude. Now, I hate cliches, but there it is. Let me ask you, how content are you in your life? Now, that doesn't mean we don't have goals and we don't have things we want to achieve and so on, but how content are you with what you have, with where you are? It popped into my mind. Remember what Yoda said to Luke Skywalker? He says, never your mind on where you are, on what you're doing. And you know, something like that. I paraphrased it. But that's exactly what many of us do. Our minds are focused on other things other than where we are. So do you have an attitude of gratitude? I'm grateful for where I am. Even some of you, I know some of you in the chat room who are going through hard times and stuff. Are you grateful for the hard time? Because it pushes your real life, your real spirituality out into the open. It's where the wheels of your automobile, figuratively speaking, metaphorically speaking, it's where the wheels meet the road. And sometimes we ask to get out and we clamor to get out of those things too soon, and we don't let it do its work that it's supposed to do. Maybe you're experiencing some of those things because you need to develop an attitude where you are content where you are with what you have, and then work on your goals from there, and then set intentions, visualizations, actualizations. So the only solution is to learn to accept our circumstances, adopt that attitude, and put our best efforts into improving areas of life that we are able to control. Isn't that in the Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the first things in their credo is to accept the things I cannot change and to change the things I can? It's paraphrased because I don't remember it off the top of my head. In the movie Groundhog's Day, Phil's case, his knowledge is of what's about to happen allows him to show up again at the right time to protect himself or townsfolk from disaster and injury. So I want to look for a second at the science of interpersonal neurobiology. Okay, you got that one? Interpersonal neurobiology. Now, 25 years ago when they made the movie Groundhog Day, prior to the expansion of scientific knowledge about the brain's plasticity, mindfulness, the neuroscience of attachment, that's when this movie came out. And yet the lessons that are contained in the movie are profound, universal human truths. Now, I'm not going to go step by step through the movie and dissect it. You can do that yourself. But I'm just referencing that. So based on the groundbreaking work of people like Dr. Daniel Siegel, he's a clinical professor of psychology at UCLA. He's the founder of interpersonal neurobiology. We know that caring and empathic interactions with other people can literally shape or reshape the neural pathways in our brains in positive and healing ways for others around us, but mostly for ourselves. This is all self-work, personal work. Our brains contain mirror neurons that allow us to feel what other people feel and to have images of other people's minds. And through interactions with empathic caregivers, children learn about their emotional worlds. We were talking about parenting last night. Where do you think kids pick that up? It's all of these mirror neurons. It's these interpersonal neurobiological things, synapses that snap in the brain. So securely attached children who experience empathic and soothing interactions with caregivers, parents, are more able to be present in their own emotions, to connect right-brained based on emotional states with left-brain-based language and logical thinking. They're more able to make sense of and understand and communicate their own emotions and to experience empathy and caring for other people around them. So what about insecure attachment and disconnection? That's part of this. Insecurely attached children, on the other hand, have more disconnected brains as adults. They tend to either avoid their own emotions, they feel uncomfortable with closeness and other people's emotionality, or they become so flooded with intense emotions when under stress that they act impulsively and they're less able to do logical problem solving. And so the Bill Murray character in Groundhog Day begins the movie by avoiding intimacy. He acts contemptuously. He pushes other people away. And when trapped in Groundhog Day, he switches to the overwhelmed and impulsive pattern. He goes so far as to attempt suicide several times, knowing that he'll wake up the next day and kidnap the groundhog. So for many people, when overwhelmed with strong emotions, logic goes out the window. Do you experience that? Do you experience that in the people around you? When they're overwhelmed with their emotional situation, their emotional state, logic no longer applies. It goes out the window, and we attempt to solve our life problems with strategies that make absolutely no sense, and we're based on rigid, chaotic ways of thinking, rigid ways of acting, carrying out our daily lives. And for example, people choose the same types of unhealthy partners over and over and over again. This is a rigid pattern, it's called. They exhaust themselves using every strategy at their disposal to try to control their romantic partners or to keep them from leaving. That's chaotic pattern. Do any of you listening, have you experienced that? Have you done that? Have you engaged in that? I know I have. One of the things I learned about my own abuse that I talked about the other night is that I was told by a psychologist that the relationships I get myself into were always a way to try to work through the problem that happened and take control over my own life. And so I was in many relationships that were very controlling. That seems odd for a guy, but guys do it too. In life, as in Groundhog Day, there's a better solution. Learning to mindfully accept the current circumstances of our lives, changing ourselves rather than expecting other people and circumstances to change. You know, what do they say about the crazy person? The person who does the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results. So once we take hold of changing our own selves, rather than expecting other people and circumstances to do it for us, is when we start to create actual change. We start intention, visualization of where we want to be. Eckhart Tolle said, whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you have chosen it for yourself. If things aren't going our way, perhaps it's because the circumstances are leading us on a different path. If we have the courage to try new ways of thinking and behaving, we might be pleasantly surprised by how things turn out. According to Buddhist philosophy, life contains uncontrollable suffering. How's that for a happy thought on New Year's Eve day? New Year's Eve. Uncontrollable suffering is what life is filled with. When we move from absorption, to compassion and service, our lives and our brain pathways expand. We begin to heal old insecure attachment patterns, negative beliefs about self and others. In fact, research shows that strong social ties and high-quality relationships are some of the strongest predictors of health and longevity. Now, I didn't say romances there, you notice? High-quality social ties, high-quality relationships. That spans a lot of different people in your life. So in what ways would you find yourself to be stuck in a groundhog type of scenario where every day you're living the same day over and over and over again? Only ours is not in that fantasy realm of living the same exact day over and over again, but we're living the same things over and over and over again every day, and nothing is changing. And that leads us to discouragement. It leads us to depression sometimes. It leads to sadness. It leads to discontentedness. So how do you step out of that? How do you create intention? How do you visualize where you want to go? What would it take for you to break old patterns of thinking and behaving that no longer serve you? Begin deliberately directing attention to positive aspects of your life and day-to-day experiences. Now, some of you are going to say, I don't have any positive aspects of my life. My life sucks. Well, you know what? That's because you are sticking yourself in that pattern of believing that. There are these neural nets that we create in our own brains that every time we reinforce those, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. I can go nowhere. I can do nothing to change my circumstances. I can't move forward. I'm stuck in my Groundhog Day. And yet I have to say as politely as possible, let's say, I don't know what that sound is. I got that last night. There's a toy or something in my office that my kids left here that every now and then emits some kind of weird sound. But we get stuck in those patterns, and there are ways of breaking loose from that and breaking free. You've got to consciously do it. So when you're with other people, family, friends, try to remain present, open-hearted, open-minded, listening with intent to understand and maybe even be of help yourself. You might not think of yourself as a helper, but you can be a helper even if you have found that you're stuck in your current. If in the movie Cantankerous Phil, Bill Murray, can transform his life, you should be able to as well. That's fiction. What about reality, nonfiction. In the spirit of that particular movie, see if you can find the half-full glass instead of the half-empty glass. Find the humor in your life struggles. Sometimes if you step outside the box and you look back in, you're going to be able to find the humor in your life. And you're going to be able to you're going to be able to overcome that with your own humor. So, Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Day. Don't make a resolution. Resolutions can be empty. With all the good ideas you might have about them. But set an intent. Revert is not the word I'm looking for. Convert from setting resolution to setting intention. And you're going to find yourself starting to open up. It's going to be work for you, but a daily exercise of visualizing where you want to be. If you're stuck in life and you feel that I can't break this mode, there are times I sit here at my desk and I say, what the hell is going on in my life? Why can't I change this certain thing? What is it that's going on? What am I doing? Sometimes we just succumb to it. And we sit and we shuffle through our lives, not trying to make it different. Now, this all sounds like a little rah-rah, come on, go get him, Tiger. That's not what I'm trying to do here. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm working to say is that move beyond even that. Resolutions come from rah-rah, let's get going, Tiger. That's where a resolution comes from. Intention comes from within. It comes from saying, I recognize the fact that I am not living to the potential. I'm lapsing into language I don't like using. I find that I'm not living the way I want to live. And I've found myself stuck in it, and I'm not doing anything about it. I might be pissing and moaning about it. I might be complaining to my friends. Oh, poor me, I've got a blindfold on and I can't see, but all you have to do is raise your hands and remove the blindfold. Remove your own blindfolds about what you're doing to yourself. Look for the happiness and the contentment of the moment. And then move into doing the things you want to do. Again, for the millionth time. Not that I'm exaggerating. I want to bring up my mantra in life. My mantra in life is what Mark Twain said. 20 years from now, you will regret more the things you did not do than the things you did do. So, and folks, listen to this. When I'm talking about intent, when I'm talking about breaking negative patterns in your life, so cast away from the safe harbor. We find safety in being miserable sometimes. We may not like the feeling of being miserable, but there's safety there. We don't have to step. We don't have to do anything. We can complain about it. Stop complaining. Cast off from the safe harbor. Set your sails to the trade winds. Explore, dream, discover. This is what life is all about. And you know what? If you trap yourself in a pattern, a negative pattern that keeps repeating in your life, perhaps that's where you need to sit down and look inward and say, what can I do to change this? What can I do to accept what is and gain the lessons from it so I can change it? Now, we're going to have to go out to break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about essential steps to setting intention, to setting visualization, to making your life do what you want it to do. So you sit tight for a couple of minutes. We'll be right back after the break. All right, folks, we're back from the break. Thanks for sitting tight. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. You can go hear the audio stream, find all the places where the show is archived, where it's playing on terrestrial stations around the country, over at odysy1.com. That's odyssey1.com. And you can also come over and watch the simulcast video stream on my YouTube channel. And that's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. Now, I want to take a minute to just do a little self-promotion if I can. You got an ear for that? You interested in listening? Stay interested for a second. Now, as you know, I do tarot readings. And right now, it's the new year. If you want to see how the energies are working around you, if you want to see what's going on, if you want to get a little insight into what you're doing, how you're handling things, that's how I read tarot. I read for the energies that are working in your lives. And many times, we just had a reading yesterday that I did for someone. And what he said, that just confirms what I know. And he was very happy with it. And that's because sometimes we need that confirmation, that external confirmation coming from somewhere else, that somebody, something, universally, God, your angels, whatever you want to look at, is governing, or at least is observing what's going on and has advice to offer. And so if you want to get that, I offer tarot readings. You can go to my tarot site, which is it's a page on my website. Just go to scottallenroberts.com, and you can click on the tarot link there. Scott Allen Roberts is easy. My name's Scott with 2 T's. Allen is A-L-A-N, Roberts. And so scottallenroberts.com. Click on the tarot link. If you're in the video chat, you just look right down here below, and you'll see it scrolling by in there. And just go over there. Click on, I've got 2 PayPal links to do a 5-card reading and a 10-card reading. And you can do a single card reading, and that just gives you a little insight. When you start modifying that singular card with other cards, it spreads out and gives a much bigger picture. If you're listeners to Rocky Stucci's show, you can see where we did a reading for him last week. I did a reading for him last week on one of his past shows, and you can see how it works. You can come over on Sunday mornings. I do a Sunday morning show that's not affiliated with Odyssey Radio. It's just my private YouTube stream. Come on over to the same stream. We do 1 and 2 and 3 card readings over there on Sunday mornings, and you can see what it's like. But if you'd like to get a tarot reading, come on over to my website, sign up for one. You click on the PayPal link, make your payment for the reading that you want, and then connect with me through all the different contact sources there, and let me know what your schedule's like, and we'll get you on the books. So come and get a tarot reading when you have a chance. And also, one last little bit of business is that, as many of you already know, I am an illustrator and a designer by trade. I've been doing this for 40 years. For as young as I am, 28 years old, it's amazing that I've got 40 years experience. But I'm an illustrator and designer. I was an art director and a creative director and an all-around creative in advertising and publishing for most of my adult life. And I freelance, and so if you've got logo designs, book cover designs, any kind of games, I design games, I design packaging, and all of that. If you need illustration work done for a book or something that you do, I do kids' books and all different kinds of illustration work. I do photography work as well. Come on over, look at my website. Again, scottallenroberts.com. Give me a call. Let me know what's on your mind, and we'll work something up that works good for you. So that's it for my shamelessly self-promoting advertisements. So now let's get back into the material. We were talking about intention and actualization. And this is something I struggle with. How do you look at your life and say, there's something I need to change? How do I do that? Sometimes it's as easy as just saying, it's like smoking and you want to quit smoking. How do you quit smoking? You simply stop smoking. Now, yeah, there's going to be some of us that have those tendrils reach up and it's going to gnaw at us because it's in our mind that this is what you do. This is your habit. If you want to stop smoking, you just stop. You just say, I'm done. Now, I'll be honest and say, I smoke. I don't smoke like I used to. I smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes a day. I used to be sometimes, at some points, I was up to 2 packs a day. But what I did was there was a point where I stopped for 6, almost 7 months and didn't have a single cigarette because I just said, okay, I'm done. Then I let something stressful take place. I go, man, this is the time I would stand outside and have a cigarette. And I went and I bought a pack of cigarettes and I smoked the whole pack in a day. So I have my periods where I've stopped and I've started again. I've given in to, and of course, treating it like an evil thing was part of my problem. I just needed to treat it as a thing I don't need to have anymore. And now I enjoy it. I enjoy the little bit that I smoke. Maybe 5 cigarettes to some people might seem like an excessive thing. Oh, you don't smoke at all. Well, that's what I do. So, you can have your opinion about that if you want. But I'm using it as an example. If you want to quit something, quit doing it. If you're too fat, you look in the mirror every day like I do. I'm too fat. I need to lose weight. What's the best way to do that? Somebody help me. Well, you know what the first thing to do is? Set your intention. Okay, I'm going to not be fat anymore. And it starts with, then you start doing the things that it takes to not do those. You set your intention. You visualize your goal. What if it's, I'm broke all the time. I need to make a better living. How do you do that? You set a visualization and an intent, and you work it. So here's some things. I've got here a list of, this is one list of many, but 7 essential steps. The power of your mind and setting intentions in your life. I'm looking at this from a less mystical, magical, which I know there are elements of that to all of this. I'm trying to set it in a fundamentally, what's the word I'm looking for? A logical, obvious life, day-to-day life type of setting. Although you can apply the magical and the mystical to this as well. So, you've seen how powerful the mind is. We know this. The brains are strong. Don't put a limit on the extent that you can actually change reality around you. You gotta believe big. You gotta see the world for its abundance rather than the limitations that are there. So you got to see your personal potential as limitless rather than limited. And, it's like I heard somebody say, set your intentions high. If you want to get ahead, if you want to make money, and I'm not talking about being materialistic, but you want to be in a better place in life, don't say, I need $73 by Friday. Now, you could set that intention and make it work. But why not say, I need $200,000 by next month? And see if your intention and your actions do not help create that or exceed that. So here's what we're going to talk about. If you're an ambitious person, if you're driven, chances are you've already heard the word intention all thrown about. Set your intentions. Be mindful of your intentions. Create powerful intentions. Some of the stuff I just said falls into that category. Some of the rah-rah speakers that are out there are all about setting intention. And so, but the term can be really vague and convoluted. Setting intention. Is it a belief? Is it a prayer? Is it having faith? What is it that intentions are built on? And In a simple form, your intentions are your thoughts that are directed toward a desired outcome. And to be more complex, it's the realization that our consciousness has the ability to create our reality. You get that? Our consciousness has the ability to create our realities. You've got the power of your mind that you can use to create something. Your consciousness, you could also call this your spirituality. Your consciousness is made up of these things. Well, no, it's like the foundation to these things. So you can utilize that to create things, make things happen the way you want them to happen. Now, what do you think magic is? I mean, real magic. It's setting the intentions through the consciousness. And it's pulling things out of nature and making it work for you. It's creating things. And that's a totally different show. We'll talk about that more again. We've talked about magic a couple of times on this show. We'll do that again. Maybe more this week. But it's something I don't practice very much, but I know a lot of people who do. I'm thinking of Travis Thorpe out there. He might be somebody that might be a good help. Maybe we'll get him on the show. We'll talk about some of this stuff. But intention is that thing that's often ridiculed and passed off as the abracadabra BS of life. But scientific research on the mind and how the mind is growing and how the mind affects reality is out there. And it's a growing thing. It's a growing understanding we have. And most common is the placebo effect. You've heard of that. The sugar pills having the same effect as, say, Prozac. They put test cases, a bunch of people on Prozac and some of them on sugar pills, and blindly, and they examine how this works. And many times the people on the sugar pills experience the same outcome as the people on Prozac. Non-alcoholic beer has caused drunkenness in some people. Fake surgeries improving health. Our beliefs defy logic. Mind over matter feats have been documented by monks draped in cold, wet sheets, then used meditation to increase their body heat and dry the sheets. So the extent of our influence on matter, the reality around us, on reality, is taken further with the famous, I don't know if you know about this, the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics, showing that light and energy behave differently as waves or particles with the presence of an observer, as if the photons knew they were being monitored. So physicists call it the observer effect. NASA scientists, JPL scientists have commented the results of any observation seem to be determined in part by the actual choices made by the observer. So we have this power. Sometimes we don't even know we're expressing it. We could just be observing something, participating in something. Mind-blowing stuff. If we're able to influence reality at a subatomic level, what's the extent of the observer effect? What is the extent of our power that is really the power of our intentions? If we set our conscious mind to doing something and we visualize its outcome and put that in front of us, do you realize how powerful that is? That's sometimes, and I will admit, a very hard thing for me to do, because I might set an intention one day and visualize its goals, but then a month later go, how come that thing didn't happen? Well, maybe it's because I didn't every day exercise that intent in that visualization. So from ancient wisdom, mysteries if you will, we're told that all that we are is the result of what we've thought. Stop and think about that for a second. Everything you are right now is a result of what you have thought. If you didn't think it, you didn't do it. So who you are, what you are. If you're trapped, like we mentioned earlier in the first segment, if you're trapped inside something and you can't get out and you're feeling miserable about life and you have no contentment, do you know why? Many times because that's what we think. And that's what we believe about our situations. The mind is everything. What we think, we become, said Buddha. What we think, we become. That's why we talk about, you hear phrases like, I'm not going to give life to that thing on any given topic. I won't mention that person's name or what that person did because I'm not going to give it life. But by thinking about it, we give it some life. But then we have intent and visualization to not let that affect who we are. So you are what your deep driving desire is. It's the object of what is. As your deep driving desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. You got that? Whatever you ask in prayer, Jesus said, believe that you've received it, and it will be yours. That's something that Jesus taught. He taught intent and visualization. If you come from that background, I thought it was important to throw that in there. Remember, Jesus said, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've already received it, and it'll be yours. What else did he say about faith and prayer? He said, if you have the faith of a grain of mustard, a mustard seed, which was the tiniest seed. He said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you'll be able to say to that mountain, move, and it will move. Intent and visualization. Jim Carrey, who's become a little nutty these days, I think, but he's got some great ideas he's trying to pursue in his own way. He boils it down to his whole career to the power of intention. He said our intention is everything. Nothing happens on this planet without it. Not one single thing has ever been accomplished without intention. If you want to go shovel the snow off your sidewalk, you have an intent to go accomplish that task, and you visualize the clear sidewalk. It's all intent. So when it comes to setting intentions toward your goals, here are 7 essential steps. We've only got, what do we got? We got about 8 or 9 minutes left. I think we can get through these. The first step is let go of limiting beliefs. How self-limited are you? I'm stuck in this thing. I can't get out. I don't have the things I need. I'm broke. I'm not. I can't have a relationship with anybody. We've got all these things that we set our limits to. I can't do this. I can't get forward. I can't move ahead. And then we got all our reasons for why we can't do those things. So we've seen how powerful the mind is. Don't put a limit on the extent that it can change reality. That's this whole believing big thing. See the world for its abundance that you can tap into rather than the limitations you've set on getting there. See your personal potential as limitless rather than limited. Now, some may see this, that's just mind over matter. That's just, rah-rah convention type stuff that they teach you. It's not. Your mind has the ability. Remember, what did we just say? What you think is what you are. And let me repeat this little, it's kind of like a poem, but it's not a poem. It says, what you are, you are what your deep driving desire is. What's your deep driving desire? Are you that thing yet? You are what your deep driving desire is. As your deep driving desire is, so is your will. In other words, to make it happen, to get there. As your will is, so is your deed. The things you will come out in your actions. As your deed is, so is your destiny. All right? So you got to let go of limiting beliefs. Let them go. I've said already in other shows, the hardest thing for me to do is to let go of things. So look at the things that you're hanging on to that are keeping you where you are and say, I got to let go of this stuff. Make it go away. Step 2. So step 1 is get rid of your self-limitations. Let go of limiting beliefs. Number 2, be clear, but be flexible. Seneca, Roman senator, said, if one does not know to which port they sail, no wind is favorable. So if you don't know where you're going, if you set your sails somewhere and there's nowhere to go, you're not going to get there. There's no wind that's going to work in your favor because you don't know where you're going. So you have to be clear about setting your for Pete's sake, setting your intentions. Be clear and specific with the intentions you set. When do you want it to happen? By what time? When do you want this thing to happen? Where will it take place? Who will you be with? But as you move ahead with it, you got to be flexible with the journey. And how you get there, a detour may be a hidden blessing and steering you in the right direction. Just because we set intentions and visualizations doesn't mean we hit hurdles along the way. Sometimes there are lessons to be learned along the way, and it helps us modify and be flexible about what it is that we are setting our intent upon. So number 3, bring in all your senses. Bring it all in. Psychologists and therapists highlight the importance of what's called VAK, visuals, audio, and kinesthetic modalities in shaping our minds. Kinesthetic, moving things. The word cinema comes from kinesthetic. When visualizing your intentions, use the modalities to make it as real in your mind as it'll be in reality when it happens. Turn up the volume on the other people you're with, the color of the suit or dress you're wearing, your bodily sensations, the emotions you celebrate. Flip it up to loud. Make it happen. You set the reality. Act with your intention as if it is already the reality. Maybe that's a little bit of faking it until you're making it, but you're using your consciousness to set it. Number 4, take action. Like a horse in a carriage, visualization needs to connect with hard work. Eat the elephant one bite at a time, folks. Reverse engineer and break your goal down into edible pieces. Rocky said he's a man of peace. He's a man of one piece at a time. Don't hesitate or let fear hold you back from doing the most immediate action toward your goal. Do something daily that brings you closer to your goal. That means you got to work for it. Intention and visualization isn't, okay, I turned on the intention visualization switch, let me sit back and see what happens. No, it's actual doing and making it happen. 5, celebrate the synchronicity. There'll be times when things are too coincidental to be mere coincidence. Too much coincidence is not coincidence. Things fall into place and the intention becomes tangible. Celebrate these affirmations that you're on the right track. Use them as markers to go back to when you're feeling down or a little discouraged about, I don't feel like I'm getting there. Go back to the intention and visualize it. Again, do this every day. Use these things as markers to go back to when you're feeling down. Keep moving forward with an open eye for the next synchronistic event when intention meets reality. Number 6, bring in some backup. With your close inner circle of friends, ask them to also set intentions for you. You're not asking them to work on your behalf. Hey, will you set this intention with me? Put it in your mind. Put the energy out when you think of me. Whenever I cross your mind, think of this thing for me, will you? If one consciousness can alter reality, a community of combined consciousness no doubt will help you move mountains. That's part of the Intrepid family we've got going on right now. There are people here that help you do these things, that help me. Number 7, exercise daily. Just like a muscle, exercise your intention. If you want to get a six-pack, do you do sit-ups one day and then wait for 6 months to see if your six-pack develops? No! You got to do it every day. You got to increase the intensity of it. So write it out daily. Be detailed with your dreams. Set yourself deadlines. Create a vision board. Maybe we'll get into another show on how to do that because we're out of time tonight. But make your intentions so ingrained in who you are every day that you're beyond confident. You wake up and you look in the mirror and you're, damn, I'm so happy to be awake today because I can realize my intentions. So be confident. Your actions become autopilot toward manifesting your intent. And folks, that's all the time we've got. I've just brought us right up to the edge. So thank you for listening. Change your own life. Don't piss and moan about it anymore. Set where you want to be and do it. Set where you want to be, your intention, then visualize it and practice it. Another time we'll talk about the mystery behind all of this too. So folks, thanks for listening. Have a happy new year. Be safe tonight. We'll see you over on Rocky Stucci's show in an hour. Love you all.